Hi everyone, it's Shannon and welcome to today's video. So today I'm going to be doing my tips for visiting Walt Disney World in 2022. I did this video in 2020, right when the parks reopened, and then an updated one in 2021. And a lot of things have changed. So it's time for a new updated video, and that's what I'm here for today. So if those two videos sent you here, don't even watch those because they are really outdated. But let's go ahead and get started with topic number one. Okay, first up is going to be Disney Genie, Disney Genie Plus, and the individual lightning lanes. So if you haven't watched my other video, I did an in-depth video on our own experience for those three new features, and I'll just post a card right here. So I encourage you to go watch that. I go into in depth on that video, as well as give our own experiences and how we used it. We used it one day where we were in the park all day. This is Genie Plus, and then another one where we just went later in the day. What I will say for Disney Genie Plus, it seems to do better when you're going later in the day. You book them in the morning and then you stack. When you're in the park all day, it's just very inconvenient. You can't pick the times. It's just, to me, I feel it's better if you're gonna go first thing in the morning, get a great touring plan, rope drop, use the early morning hours for on-site hotel guests if you're staying at a Disney resort, and that's gonna be more beneficial than the Disney Genie Plus. I go into detail of why I don't think it's worth it for those types of days. But if you're going later in the day, you can kind of stack, and then you can basically, have ride after ride after ride. Now, Sarah from Touring Plans Travel, she has a great Instagram. I will post a link to her Instagram. She did in her stories, she just came back from a trip, and she did in her stories basically recapping how she booked at 7 a.m. and then she booked at the next time, and she booked, and she was able to stack, I think, like 4 attractions in the afternoon, and was able to go, and then she was, rode Star Tours. I don't remember exactly, but they didn't go to the park until like 12:30. They had lunch. It was a very relaxing time, and they were able to do everything. This is at Hollywood Studios. So I believe she made that story in her highlights. And I really encourage you to go to that because it really is helpful to kind of see how to really utilize it. And she went between Christmas and New Year's. So it's like one of the busiest weeks at Walt Disney World. So obviously she got the most bang for her buck. But I encourage you to do that. That is, again, Disney Genie Plus. Disney Genie, just don't use it. You'll know why if you go that other video. And then the individual lightning lanes, I think, are beneficial. I think they're worth it, especially like Rise of the Resistance, Flight of Passage. Ratatouille, you can get or Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, you can get the boarding pass. So try and wake up and get the boarding pass rather than have to buy an individual lightning lane. However, the boarding pass, you still have to wait in line. So, the line can be 45 minutes to an hour just because you have the boarding pass. The lightning lane, you're going to walk right through. So that's another thing as well. But that's it. I think that, again, that video will go more into depth of those three things, but it's basically absolutely not for Disney Genie. Disney Genie Plus is a maybe, and individual lightning lane is probably. Okay, so next up is transportation. So I'm just going to kind of lump in all resort transportation in here. That would include buses. So buses, I will say they are running a little bit more often than they did before. I found they were running more often in the morning. However, if you went in the afternoon, we tended to take an Uber. We would usually take an Uber or a Lyft to the park and then take the bus back. So that's how we did it. A couple times we did, obviously, if we were going to Magic Kingdom, we took the bus, but for the most part, we took an Uber or Lyft. And we have our car, but we prefer not to park. So it's easier just to take an Uber or Lyft. But if you don't and you want to take a bus, they are coming more often. The Skyliner is running. I think it's great. And it is going through a refurbishment in January. So if you are planning on using it, check the dates in January and just check the refurbishment. They tend to, we'll post it when it's going to be down. The only thing I will say, and I've said this before, is if there is a storm coming or it looks like it's going to be a storm, don't take the Skyliner thinking you're going to beat the storm, because as what happened to us in July of 2020, we got evacuated off the Skyliner at the Riviera. We were staying at Beach Club. We got evacuated at the Riviera, and we had to take a lift from the Riviera back to the Beach Club. So it was just, I mean, we wasted like an hour by doing that just because we thought we could beat the storms. Friendship boats are back. They were back at Old Key West. We never took it, but the boat was back at Old Key West and the other resorts as well. So that's something that is great that they are back. So if you take the boats, they are back. And let me see what else. Oh, the trams, the parking trams. So the parking trams, I know Magic Kingdom is back as of now, and I know they're coming back. If they're not all back at the parks, they will be back soon. So that we didn't need that. They weren't back when we were there, but I know a lot of people, especially at certain parks, you know, having those parking trams are really, really important. So it's so excited that they are back for those people that need those parking trams. So next topic is going to be Photopass Memory Maker. There are definitely a lot more Photopass photographers out. Right now, the mask policy is you don't have to wear a mask outdoors. You do have to wear it indoors. So if there's a Photopass photographer outdoors, you can take a photo, no problem. But indoors, you do have to keep your mask on. So that includes any characters, anything like that. You do have to keep your mask on. And then not all the character meet and greets have a Photopass photographer. So Mickey at Magic Kingdom didn't have a Photopass photographer there, but the Mickey at Epcot by the Pixar shorts did have a Photopass photographer. So I don't really know the reason why, but just keep in mind that even if you have the memory maker and you're maybe hoping to get that photo, you may not get it from a Photopass. They will still take pictures. They can take pictures with your phone. We were able to get a picture with Mickey at Magic Kingdom with my iPhone, but just know that if you are thinking that there's going to be a Photopass photographer, there's not always one there like there was in the past. Now, my family and I did the Capture Your Moment photo session at Magic Kingdom. I'll post a card right here when we did it. It was fantastic. I had thought about doing it. I tried to get it before. And when I was there, I did kind of ask some questions, and I go into a little bit on this video. But what they told me is basically this is like dining reservations. So if you are trying to book one of these Capture Your Moments, it's just like 60 plus 10, just like dining reservations. So which means that if you're staying on property, you can book 60 plus, 10 days out of your reservation. So if you are staying on property, you can technically book up to 70 days out. So Capture Your Moment is included in that. What they told me is that they get a lot of cancellations, and what they're seeing is there's no way for them to prevent this. You have to pay up front. It's $50. You have to pay up front. You get the pictures with your memory maker, or if you have Photopass, that's how you get your photos. But travel agents or travel planners are booking a bunch of sessions up and then offering them to their clients. And if they don't book a session, they just cancel it 24 hours in advance. So they get a lot of cancellations 24 to 48 hours in advance of those sessions. And they told me basically just keep checking, keep checking, keep checking. So keep that in mind. If you are looking and you're trying to get a session, it may pop up. And if it doesn't pop up and you're want to take a session and you don't mind kind of doing an impromptu session the day of, then go by the desk. The desk at Magic Kingdom is right next to Tony's Town Square, and you can ask them. They said that they do sometimes take up walk-ins because they do get cancellations and they'll have spots. So might as well just check. I would check first thing in the morning, because if they have availability, they shoot first thing in the morning, and then I think they go up to like 3 or 3:30. I recommend doing it in the morning. However, if you're because you're, as a woman, your makeup's fresh rather than, going on a bunch of rides. However, you are going to miss prime, riding, like rope drop time, which we did. But it was fine. I loved the pictures. It was also a lot less crowded at that point. Even at the end of our session, when ropes dropped, it was a lot harder to take pictures. It was a lot harder to maneuver around, but it was fantastic. The photographers were great. We had a little bit of a delay in the beginning because there was a wedding and we didn't get to shoot where they normally shoot. And, you know, you only have 20 minutes, but they added in a little extra time because that we were delayed for that. So that was really nice of them to do that. But I highly recommend Capture a Moment. Right now it's offered at Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. And I think we might even do Animal Kingdom next time, but I really hope they add it at Epcot and at Hollywood Studios. I think it's a really great feature, and I think it's a great value. So I talked a little bit already about the current mask policy. I'm recording this on January 2nd. So the mask policy could and probably will change at some point. You know, I don't know. But right now you have to wear your mask at all indoor locations. That includes rides, any rides that have an indoor queue, you have to wear your mask. That includes staying on the ride. However, when you're outdoors, you don't have to. You know, it's kind of odd because with Big Thunder Mountain, it's considered indoors, whereas Slinky Dog Dash is considered completely outdoors. So, you know, sometimes I would just ask when I would walk in, do I need to wear my mask? And they would let me know. With that said, I found the taking on and the off of the mask just kind of a pain, and I would forget my mask. We have a stroller. So what I did, I went in September and it was just, I was having it in my pockets, and if you don't always pack pockets, it's a kind of a pain. So I got one of those kind of necklaces, I guess, the mask holder that they use for sunglasses. I got that, put it on my mask, and I used that. I got one for my son as well. My husband didn't want it. The only thing with it is that when you do go to take pictures outdoors, you know, you have to kind of throw it around or remember to take it off, or just have your mask hanging around your neck. You know, but for me, because there was a lot of times where I didn't have it, I'd put the mask in the stroller, we were walking into, I remember Spaceship Earth, walking into it, and we had to go back out of the line because I had forgotten my mask. So to me, I found it very easy. That way it was always on me. So that's my biggest recommendation, is if you're going to be wearing the mask, taking it on and off whenever you can, then just to get a mask holder to wear around your neck. Okay, talk a little bit about table service and ADRs. They're still just extremely hard to come by. So again, staying on property, you can book 60 plus 10. You know, make sure you know what day you can book and book out. If you're trying to get Space 220, try to maybe get it at the end of your trip. That's what I did. We got it at the end of our trip. There was no available times on our first day. And then I did the Touring Plans reservations finder and was able to get a reservation for our first day. So then I ended up canceling the one that we had on our last day. So that's the harder to get reservations should be at the end of your trip if you can, because those are going to be the easier ones to get. But you also can do a wait list on the app. So when you go in, you just look at the map, dining, and sometimes it'll be the wait list is closed. But even if it says the wait list is closed, just keep refreshing because it might reopen. That happened a lot with Nomad Lounge. While we didn't go this trip, we went in October. It was closed. The wait list was closed, and I refreshed it for a good maybe 10 minutes, and then it finally opened up, and I was able to put us on the wait list, and we got in. We got in about a half an hour, if I can remember. But that's really great. And I saw that with a lot of the dinings. You're probably not going to get that. Space 220 is completely different. Space 220, you don't check in online. You don't check in on the app. You have to go physically there to check in. Now they do have a lounge that I think that can book as well. If you do the standby or the waiting in line, just make sure that if you have children under 14, that there's seats available for them, because occasionally there's the lounge and there's seating there that kids can sit at. However, they can't sit at the bar. And a lot of times they were using the lounge seating and you couldn't, so people were waiting for like an hour and then only to find out that their kids couldn't sit because they were only sitting that line at the bar. So just make sure you ask before you wait in any line. That's my advice for there. But my advice is Touring Plans, the reservation finder. It's part of your subscription. You can do 2 reservation finders. Another service I use is mousedining.com. So mousedining.com is another one. I use both, and a lot of times they will find reservations at different times. So I've had good luck with both. They're both great, but I do use both whenever I'm looking for a hard to get reservation. Mobile order and quick service. I will say it seemed to have improved quite a bit. We weren't placing orders. I was placing orders maybe an hour or two before, but I wasn't placing orders really early on. We did more table service this trip, but I wasn't having to place my order like first thing in the morning to make sure I got a time. Now, Woody's Lunchbox is one that fills up. So there's certain ones that are more popular. And if you want to eat at one of those, I would make your, order first thing in the morning if you know around what time you want to eat. Otherwise, I will say it's a little better, but I would say if you have an idea of when you want to eat, make the order as soon as you can, just so that you can get the ideal time for you. And then you just don't want to have to worry about what does everybody want while you're in the park. You already have the order. You can always change the time in the app. So let's say you picked 12 to 12:30 and you realize at 11:30 everybody's hungry. Maybe you can try and get an earlier time without having to do the whole order. So that's something that's convenient too. But it has seemed to improve. But I'd still say try and be proactive if you can. So Rise of the Resistance is no longer a boarding group, so you just do a standby line. I would say end of the day, or to me, finding it at the end of the day in October, we went on like right before the park closed, and it was a 15-minute wait. When we got off, it was a 5-minute wait. So, and we literally, it wasn't even a 15-minute wait. We pretty much walked on. Remy's Ratatouille Adventure is a boarding group now. So it's 7 a.m. and I believe 1 p.m., but you have to be in the park for the 1 p.m. drop. We had no problem getting this one. So I haven't had a problem yet getting it. We didn't get it on our last day just because I forgot to wake up. And we never got to the park before 1. So we didn't ride it, but that was fine. Make sure you're already in, like now you can select everything and be already in the app ready to select. So make sure you go as far as you possibly can. Like at 6:55, and then what I do is I have my watch next to me in the seconds so that I know, and the minute it hits 7 o'clock, I refresh, and then I haven't had a problem getting it. So that's my tips. There's a lot of other videos that people have better strategies on how to get it, but just know that if you do get the boarding pass, you are probably going to wait 45 minutes to an hour, maybe even longer. But if you do the individual lightning lane, you'll just walk right on. Now, if you miss your boarding group time, my experience is that they will still let you ride. We've done that twice. The first time it was down when we went. We were prepared to say, it was down when our time was up, and they didn't ask us anything. So okay. And then the second time, same thing. We thought, okay, they're going to tell us that we're late and we can't ride it, but they didn't say anything. So we just never even said anything. We just went and they let us right through. But so it seems to be that you have to wait until your time is called, but once your time is called, you can go whatever. But I would just say that if you miss your time, be prepared that they could turn you away. We were always prepared to say, no, sorry, you missed your time. Now that's with the boarding pass. That's not with the individual lightning lane. So, but that's my advice as far as if you miss your time, try. You should get in. So attraction pre-shows, they're back. So it was the first time we had seen, I think it was October was the first time we got to see a lot of the pre-shows for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. We had never seen it. Attraction pre-shows are back, so that's great. And then I would just say, know what's open and what's not. Most things are open now. There still are a few things that haven't reopened, but for the most part. But if there's something that you really want to do, just make sure you look and take a look and see if it's open or not. I think All Star Sports was supposed to reopen in December. It's now been moved. I think it's reopening now in March. So things can change, but just take a look and know if you're specifically looking for something, make sure you know if it's open or not. So annual passes, that was a big question, was when will annual passes return? Well, they returned, and that was in September, and now they have been paused again. And so our annual passes actually expired on December 30th, and we decided not to renew. Don't have a trip for the first time in several years. We actually do not have a trip planned to Disney World, and that's because we have several cruises planned for the first part of the year, and I just don't see the need to renew our annual passes at this time. I think we also need a break from the parks. I think we need a break as a family. We do have our annual passes at Universal Studios, so we will probably be going there. But as far as annual passes, right now they are on pause. No one knows when they're going to return. And I think the only level that you can purchase is the lowest level. I don't even know what it's called. I think it's the Pirate Pass, the one that used to be silver, and that you have to be a Florida resident. And it's basically the weekday, Florida resident pass. Yeah, we decided it was hard when they paused it, whether or not we were going to renew. But in reality, we're not going to Disney World for at least 6 months. So it really doesn't make sense to renew our annual passes. But hopefully we won't regret that. Hopefully they will come back before our next trip. So character meals, we've done it a couple times. We did it at Topolino's back in June of 2020. And then we did 2 this last trip. We did Hollywood and Vine as well as Tusker House. We hadn't done Tusker House in a long time. I really enjoyed Tusker House. I was a little concerned because we were a little further back, but they did let my son get up and take pictures. Obviously not too close, but close enough. The hardest thing for him was he kept wanting to go up to the characters to talk to them. But they learn, they catch on, and he was able to take pictures. And I thought it was a lot. It was great. Hollywood and Vine, the same thing. I will say the food at Tusker House was a lot better. Tusker House is not a buffet anymore right now. It's family style. And watch, if you're curious, I do have a dedicated vlog on that one. Actually on both. I have dedicated vlogs on each of those. The Tusker House is no longer a buffet, it's a family style. And we had just a kind of an issue because we were the last seating for breakfast and they were turning over to lunch. So we just didn't get, I didn't get a gluten-free platter. Kind of forgot about us as far as food was concerned. We got very limited food, but the food what we got was delicious and the character interactions was great. So my recommendation is probably not doing the last seating of the meal, especially if you have an allergy. Hollywood and Vine was a prefix, a salad, a entree, and a dessert. We don't order dessert, so it was really expensive, and I don't remember it being that expensive last year. Maybe it was, but I think the price has gone up. And the food was okay. It was okay. It was probably one of the worst meals that week that we had, but we had some really great meals. So it was probably on the bottom of our list. It was okay, but it was by far the most expensive meal that we had, more than our dinner at Hollywood Brown Derby, where I had 2 glasses of wine, and neither of us drank at Hollywood and Vine. So I think Tusker House is a better value. Character interactions I thought was great at both, and it's fun to see the characters, and I think they do it in a really great way where interact with the characters even if it's at a distance. Now, parades are still not back, but the character cavalcades are still going on. However, now they do have times. So there are times in the app and you can look up the times. Previously, they were just kind of random, but now they are in the app and you can kind of look that up. So if you are looking for a specific character, you can look for that. When parades will come back, I don't know. Hopefully they're going to come back soon. Okay, so let's talk about nighttime shows. Disney Enchantment. So I've seen it twice. First time was the night it premiered on October 1st, and we were to the side. We did not stay in line. We had no front view of the castle, just a side view and an off-center view of the fireworks. And we thought, it's okay. It's definitely not happily ever after. We didn't really enjoy it. My son actually got bored during the show and asked if we could go ride Splash Mountain. So it kind of gives you an idea. Then we watched it our second to last night, the night we went to Disney After Hours. I have a dedicated video for that. We did the Disney Enchantment pre-party. So that was the first thing. That's how we started off our night. We went to the dessert pre-party at Tomorrowland Terrace, and we walked over to the Plaza Garden for the viewing. I personally didn't want to do the one where you're seated because it's off to the side. We don't mind standing up for the fireworks in the Plaza Garden. I did have a couple glasses of champagne, and that might have made the show better. I don't know. But I will say we enjoyed it a lot more. My husband, who didn't drink at all, really enjoyed it. My son didn't get bored. So we all enjoyed the show tremendously more. I still like Happily Ever After more, but I did find myself really into the show. I really liked it this time. The projections really make a difference. So if you can book the dessert party with the Plaza Garden, I think it's worth it. But if you can't, watch from the front. I think the side is great if you just want to watch fireworks and you've already seen the show. That place where we watched from in October was a great place. But if it's the first time seeing the show, you really need to have a good view of the castle. Now, Harmonious we have seen twice. So here kind of goes with Harmonious. The first time we saw it, we made dinner reservations at La Hacienda. Not a good place to watch the fireworks. It's not a fireworks viewing area, but no, just don't do it. Great food, wonderful food, but not a good place to watch it. I also was watching reviews of the Spice Road table and the Rose and Crown. I think Rose and Crown would probably be the better spot if you're doing it, but I don't think that's worth the money where they're seated. I really hope they do a dessert party with a dead-on view of the big circle, because I think there needs to be a spot where you can get a dead-on view of the circle. With that said, we did the Harmonious private fireworks cruise and we really enjoyed it. While you don't have a view of the circle, I knew that before. However, we were literally dead center between the two side barges. And I think that's the next best spot, where if you are not a good view of the big circle, but you're somewhere in between the big circle and the two side barges, we had a really good, you can see from that video what exactly our view was. We really enjoyed the show. To me, I love Harmonious. I was not a fan of Illuminations, so I liked Epcot Forever. Harmonious, that is by far my favorite Disney nighttime show. So I think it's wonderful. My son enjoys it. My husband enjoys it. Like, that is our family's favorite show. Can't wait to see it. So Disney, if anybody ever watches this, you got to do a fireworks dessert party with a good view of the circle, because I think that is something that's needed. But if you are a larger group and you're thinking of doing Spice Road Table or Rose and Crown, forget that. Book a fireworks cruise. Book the Harmonious fireworks cruise. They only do 4 boats a night, and you have to book them through there's a phone number, and I put it in that video, so it's in the description box. You have to book over the phone. It opens up 60 plus 10, and it books up fast. So I booked that. Was one of the first things I booked. It's not cheap. And then you don't have to tip your driver or your captain, but we always do. They're amazing. They really make the experience. We did it once before in Magic Kingdom, and we tipped Norm, who was our captain at this time, and he was fantastic. So, I know people that have gone in a group. You can fit 10 people on a boat, and it was just an amazing experience, and it was how we ended our vacation, and I have no regrets doing it. So park hopping is back. However, you cannot park hop until after 2 p.m. What I've seen is that you can park hop around 1:45 as they'll let you into the other park. But however, you may not be able to get in. I know on October 1st, you were not able to hop into Magic Kingdom. So that was something, but they did notify people on the app that they had closed Magic Kingdom. But I think that's been the only day that they haven't allowed park hopping. Other than that, you can park. And I know some people are even doing the, 4 parks in one day. We're not park hoppers unless we're in with walking distance of a park, so that's not a big deal for us. But park hopping is back. Just know that you're not going to get in. And they were checking. Like, there was one day where I was getting to the park around 1:40, and I think this was back in September, and I had to wait in a line to prove that I had a park reservation, even though I had been in the park already. So it was kind of an inconvenience, but I understand why they do that. So just know that park hopping's back, but you're not going to get in before 1:45. So I kind of mentioned this a little while ago. Touring Plans, have a plan. Subscribe to Touring Plans. It's $18 a year. I highly recommend it. Don't use Disney Genie. Again, just don't use it. But Disney, touring plans, I'm a huge fan. I have been a subscriber now, I think for 5 years, use it all the time. I don't do touring plans as much anymore because my son kind of just tells us where we're going, but I do plan everything else on the trip. I know what days, which days, I have that all in our dashboard. And obviously my favorite feature is the room request feature for if you're staying on a Disney resort hotel. So I have a whole series of videos. I have videos on every single Disney World resort, except for the tree houses. And the tree houses is just, I've never even been over there, so I have yet to do the tree houses. Otherwise, if you're looking at any of the resort hotels, I give suggestions. And so far people have kind of come back and said, we took your recommendation, we requested it, we got it, and it was a great recommendation. So thank you to everybody that has come back and given good positive feedback. I appreciate that. I will say though, you don't always get your request. October, we got completely the opposite of what we requested. Obviously, it was the 50th anniversary. We were in the Saratoga Springs. We were in a completely different area. However, the area that we ended up in was great. So it wasn't a problem because the area ended up working out really, really well for our needs that trip. But then in Old Key West, we got the exact room we requested. I mean, the exact room, building, everything. And that's a really large resort. So, I have to thank Touring Plans for that. And also with Touring Plans, their Touring Plans Lines app is amazing. The one thing that I am seeing with Disney Genie is a lot of the times are inflated. Not always, but some of them are. So you're going to get more accurate times on the Disney Lines app. So that's where I say get the Touring Plans subscription because all of that is included in the yearly subscription. So one more thing is I would recommend booking with a travel agent if you can. I'm one that I always tend to book things on my own, but with the way everything is right now, I feel a little bit more confident booking with a travel agent. Just so you know, this video is not sponsored and I don't get any sponsorships, but Touring Plans does have a travel agency, and if you book through them, then you get a year subscription to Touring Plans for free with your reservation. So it's a little perk right there. Now, I don't usually use a travel agent because we're DVC, so obviously we don't need a travel agent for that, and we're annual pass holders. And then the other thing I would say for booking travel is if you're questioning like, oh, we want to go this time, but we're unsure with everything, just book. If you see a good rate for your hotel, just book it. You can always change the dates. You can always cancel, just make sure you know the timelines of when you can cancel, if it's 30 days, if it's 5 days, whatever it is, because case in point, my brother-in-law was looking and he, wanted to stay at one of the values, gave him the prices, and he's like, okay, I'm going to talk to my wife, and got back to me 3 weeks later, and now none of those are available. And actually there's only one moderate available. They're not filling a lot of the resorts to capacity. So if you see the resort you want to stay at, just book it. You can always change the dates. You can always cancel if you need to. Just again, a travel agent will tell you what dates are, when you're going to lose your deposit, etc. So that's my advice as far as booking. So that's it. Those are my tips for visiting Walt Disney World in 2022. Again, I think it's more normal than not. Things are slowly coming back. Hoop-de-doo, you got to bring Hoop-de-doo back. Like, Hoop-de-doo needs to come back. So hopefully it'll come back soon. Indiana Jones just returned. Other shows are returning. There's some things that are still not around, but some things I think are better. The Disney Junior Play and Dance, I think is so much better than a Disney Junior Dance Party. We enjoyed it. My son enjoyed it. We have a whole video of it and it was fantastic. So I think that's improved over the version that was pre-pandemic. So, maybe that's just a personal opinion. But with that, if you like this video, click like, click and subscribe. That way you get a notification every time I post a new video. Bye everyone.